Absolutely. And we should get ready to kick off soon, and here we go. In the first chess of game, we already get a big 20 from Link's house, and only one player actually deciding to do a sanctuary start. We'll wait and see.
We got one of our small keys to Turtle Rock, so that's one of the 4 that we need for that.
Yes, absolutely. And it appears that JP is going straight for the Julian start, which will guarantee him to have enough money to afford bombs reliably, and also being able to pay the ball vendor item.
Yeah, doing the early Houlihan is nice, especially in Keysanity. You get that quick 150 or so rupees under your belt. Lets you afford what you need to buy in Kakariko on one of your first trips, so it's definitely nice. And we have a big key from the uncle to Swamp Palace.
Swamp. It is basically just a glorified fetch quest item, but you never really want to do multiple visits to Swamp Palace, so finding it is always a really nice thing. And we get a small key to Mr. Meyer and the second chest in the drop.
Okay, it looks like the Aurors are trading places a little bit. No, the other 3 are starting up at the Sanctuary.
Absolutely. And they're probably going to go for a little bit of bomb farming in the case of Liminality to be able to do the southern path of Kakariko. While the others going straight to checking, most likely, at least, the Lumberjack Cave, of course.
Yep, we'll get our first tell if Aghanim 1 is required. I'm not going to check the Bush Crab here. Bush Crab has first arrows today.
And Bush Crab, yeah, a lot of arrows. And the tier 1 pull and the tier 2, like both being just green rupees, is really not nice. So I'd say the Brewers fan that did Julian actually got a little bit of a head start right there, at least when it comes down to Kakariko. And here I believe that I saw a small key on the Lumberjack Cave ledge.
Potentially useful, we won't know that for a little bit.
Indeed, it could be the Swamp Small Key, which would be not a very nice thing to find.
And yeah, here we have the Small Key is huge.
And we actually find the first sword in the racing minigame. Liminality actually going straight to getting it without even doing the check.
And Gesellschaft is grabbing a quick early bottle in the forest, as is Loonycloud, so they can check the sick kit on their first pass through. So that's actually a very nice pickup.
Indeed. In the drop, we find only a bomb upgrade, sadly. I actually missed what was in the library, but we'll probably see it again quite soon.
Yeah, I think we'll see it when our Brewers takes a walk up there momentarily.
Meanwhile, in the bar, we have just a map of Tower Hera. So it's a little bit of information that we get right away. You can actually know the dungeon rewards of 3 dungeons every single seed. You can ask Sashrala for the location of the green pendant, and you can also ask the bomb vendor in the Dark World the location of the 2 red crystals. So really, in any given seed, there's only really 5 maps that will give you more information. Yeah, no, 7, sorry. So yeah, really, you after the maps that will not give you the same information that you'll find. And we already find a moon pill and a big key to GT right away into Lion's Hut.
That's a huge key to find early. Lets you finish off the game, basically. Still need those 7 crystals before we can get up to that part of the game, though.
Yes, absolutely. In the back, we find a second ball already. Meanwhile, in the chicken hut, there's only a small piece of heart. But they add up. Especially in the early game, you never really spit on them. You never quite know where the seed wants you to go early on. Though in Keysanity, like, you kind of need to be a bit more thorough and actually favor a lot of light world checks everywhere before you actually venture into the Dark World. So it's not as punishing that some seeds that actually force you to go to the Dark World really early with low HP green mail and not necessarily the best equipment.
Couple nice items in the wall so far. We have the flute and the powder so far. Let's us and the can of brine, it looks like. So that gives us Death Mountain access right off the bat.
Indeed, but I don't believe that a lot of these players will make the decision to go the Dark World right away, because they still don't have a lot of important items for navigation that will make routing faster, such as the mirror. If you don't have the mirror, you have to just revisit so many locations. But finding that flute really early is going to simplify these early game checks, since they will avoid themselves a lot of save and quits. Usually a popular location to go straight to once you were done in Kakariko is actually the South Shore. Well, now they can just straight up activate the flute while they're here and just fly there.
Be able to check out Ice Cave and Mini Molarm and then walk over to the dam, so lets you route it a little bit more efficiently.
Indeed.
I love being able to get up Death Mountain a little bit quicker in the seeds, so getting that early flute is definitely nice.
Yeah,
and,
like...
bottom end are having our Thieves Town small keys, so that gets to the big chest when we get over there. He sells his B, get some 100 rupees for it.
That is also basically a glorified fetch quest item that prevents you from the revisit in dungeon, so you're always happy to find these, even though it's not necessarily the biggest deal. It always simplifies routing, potentially.
One thing to note so far in this season, it's throwing a lot of money at us that could put Zora in play relatively quickly.
Yeah, we're going to have that information quite soon, I believe. Though finding a lot of money doesn't necessarily mean that Zora is going to pay off more. There's some seeds sometimes where you basically find absolutely no money, but Zora actually has a progression item. So here you are farming 400 rupees. It really feels awful.
Overall, not a bad Kakariko village. Some nice items. We got our early sword, we got our flute, we got our moon pearl, and of course, again, it's Tower's key. So a lot of nice stuff in Kakariko this is the first night seed.
Yeah, a lot of routing that you do back to Kakariko has already been covered. I mean, you already have the ball to actually check the kid. You have the Ocarina already activated. And here we have Giselle going straight for Ice Rock Cave.
I don't believe Gazelle had gone down to check out the race game, so she did not get her sword yet.
Yeah, that's actually an interesting play. But so far, it's not necessarily the biggest deal. It's just going to make her routing a little bit weird, since I don't exactly know when she's going to make the decision to go back to the racing game. And sadly, only a green rupees for her efforts, but she still has a flute, so navigation is quite easy. In the first chest of the dam, we find some bombs. Meanwhile, Loonycloud actually making the play to go straight for Agonas Cave, so we see a lot of fringe locations being checked by different players right from the get-go. Actually, plays are really enabled by finding that flute, so these plays become a lot less punishing. Oh, there's roulette, we find a big key as well.
Looks like Gazelle's gonna make that early Agina dip as well. And they get the lamp for it, that's a nice pickup.
Ooh, interesting.
And hookshot in the well, so we got a soggy hookshot.
That is really good.
Yeah, that hookshot lets you kill Mini Molarm Cave a little bit more efficiently.
Yeah, it removes the worry of, oh, I need at least 1 bomb to enter and minimum 3 bombs to actually be able to clear things. Now with the hookshot, you just don't really worry, just spam that hookshot and pray that they don't really troll you. As
this one's doing a dance around.
Yep. And then just get fed up and you go vertically.
Gazelle is skipping the dam as well, it looks like. Interesting.
A small key to Mizrmar is found in... yeah, that's the only find, really. Or second key to Mizrmar in Mini Molarm Cave.
Yeah, and some money, that's about it.
Some pieces of heart, but like, they really are significant enough. And we go straight up for the escape play from Giselle. which is basically enabled as a location to check early because of the find of the lamp, which makes the dark chest actually in the logic. Sadly, she does not possess that small key that will enable her to actually check the back 3 chests of escape. And also, she doesn't have a way to get up to Aghanim's tower, so these locations are still locked. But if she finds value here, it's an advantage. Since of the 2 other things that I said, a lot of people actually like to wait until they can clear Aga Tower before they actually go straight away to escape. So it can be an advantage gain right there.
Now we see Liminality down in the escape now too. He's going to be able to use his sword hook shot, whereas Gesell is having to rely on bombs. She's definitely handling it nice though. I have no problems with those first couple guards. Now she has a big ball and chain guard down here, but she needs pots to help her with it.
She finds the red boomerang, which can enable a very, very tiny amount of time saves here and there. It's also convenient to have sometimes if, like in her case, she doesn't have a sword to orient herself into the dark rooms, but sadly she already has the lamp, so it won't really be significant. And here, speaking of sword, she just finds a different one right away. So the fact that she didn't actually do the racing game ends up not being punishing at all.
Interesting to note though, we do have 2 swords and a lamp already.
Yeah. So if she did the racing game, she will be able to actually open up the first chest in Aghanim's tower. But since this is Keysanity, the other players also need to find the 2 small keys to Castle Tower in order to be able to kill Aghanim. But that could very well be our access to the Dark World, since we've yet to find a hammer or any glove, and we do have the Moon Pearl.
Now, Gesell is going to be able to check this dark room. Liminality was here, but left because he did not go down to get his lamp yet.
Yeah, so little routing divergences give both of these players small advantages.
And we see our first play onto Shrashala, and we'll see what he has for us.
Sadly, only a big 20 on the... Okay, that's a small key to Ice Palace. And that is the single arrow.
So the old man having nothing but tilts with a green pennant, and that's an Ice Palace.
Indeed. And yeah, it was simply a big 20 onto the Hylia Island. We see a fake flippers play that will give us pretty much not much in the Waterfall Cave. We should see a play that will indicate us which item is actually on the Zora ledge. And also, I believe that GP has enough money to just straight up pay Zora and get that item. So that could be a big advantage right there coming from him. Sadly, his opponent also has the money and making the same play at the same time.
All right, chat. Is the fish gonna scam us today, or we got something good today? What do you guys all think? I think we get a life lesson as usual.
Only a piece of heart from Zora, so basically a life lesson, and the first chest of sorry, I'm at lost for words today. The first chest of Eastern Palace being only a big 20, sadly. But there's still a lot of possibilities to find value in there, so it could be a solid play from Loonycloud.
Yep, looks like the big fish just loves us today. That's about it.
Only a bomber grade in the second chest. 2 more chests that Loonycloud can check, and also the Vanilla Bakey chest is actually in the logic this time. A lot of players, when they make the early game Eastern play, they usually just don't mind if they have the lamp or not, and they still do it, even though the contents of that chest is a sequence break, but here it's actually in the logic. So it makes the early dip into Eastern Palace a lot more valuable, I'd say. And if he finds a small key to Castle Tower, then all of it was validated.
And Gesell is going to do her fake flipper also. As you said, we do have a couple dark rooms going on. That's our first Castle Tower key.
Ooh, speaking of it.
I'm getting that Aghanim 1 vibe. What about you, Chirality?
all we need is the second one, so I definitely possess the same vibe as you.
And there are those two chests inside the Egglin Tower we can actually reach now.
Yeah, but the players that are getting that Aga 1 vibe are going to wait until they explore the other locations before they actually go open these checks. It's possible that the second Castle Tower key could be in one of those, but it's not really a thing that you'd wish to gamble on. And when it's so close to be a Naga required seed, just like you don't want to double dip Castle Tower.
Now, Brewers is up on Spectre Rock. Sees a compass, and we have two
Another
compasses.
compass.
So not much
Cool.
for JP there, and Liminality is going to check out this other cave.
Oh, and the third sword.
Wow, a lot of early swords. That's a nice pickup.
Mm-hmm. And here, on the upper Paradox Cave, we have 5 more checks. Oh, and we actually get a death in Paradox Cave from Liminality. Probably still going to make the play to go back since there's so much value there. But an upsetting time loss for sure.
Yeah, you really want to avoid deaths in Randomizer, especially on the overworld, just because of how much time it takes to walk back to where you were.
But it's Death Mountain, early game. There's always the possibility of getting trolled by the cabbages and the Minimolon, so things certainly happen.
Dead rocks, of course, are always a pain, regardless if it's early game
Of
or
course.
late game.
I mentioned 2 of the problems, and I just ignored the most difficult one to deal with.
I hate those things with a passion.
Oh, definitely. And here we find the hammer, a small key to pod, another small key to pod, a big heart. Oh, that is quite a Paradox Cave, actually.
Yeah, Paradox Cave having a lot of nice goodies for us today, for sure. So now, what will we find first? That lift upgrade, or will we find our second Castle Tower key?
We already found one, so I'd put my faith into the Castle Tower key. I want to watch this runner squirm a little. Like, got the lamp, 3 swords, 1 Castle Tower key. There has to be Aga, right? It just has to be. Now, Ice Palace being the location of the green pennant makes things a little bit interesting, because it's definitely not necessarily a location that most players like to go in early, but you do have the added value of getting the green pennant off of doing it. So I don't know if these players are going to make the play early on for it, if they do actually find the second lift upgrade and a source of fire, of course. And by that I actually mean bombos or fire rod. But it's certainly a thing to think about.
And we do have a double spiral cave check. Without the boots, this cave is a little annoying to walk around.
Yeah, but when you're there, like, on top of checking Paradox Cave, you kind of have to do it. Oh!
And there's our lift upgrade.
And it's official, folks. Aga is dead.
For the most part, there is that small key on Lumberjack Ledge that we might need.
Yeah, but it'll be really interesting if one of the players make the gamble to do Aga 1 straight up only for that small key and hoping that it's relevant, but I believe that it's going to wait until much further into the seed, where maybe they're still going to be hunting that Swamp Palace small key, and then they're getting increasingly worried that the key on the Lumberjack Cave is actually that one. So it's going to be interesting to see which player, if any, cracks first.
Yeah, this could be one of those hour and a half in Aghanim plays.
The saddest thing will be to see a player make that early gamble for it, and then it simply turns out that it's a pod key or a Misery Mire small key, something useless. So we're going to see 2 new locations. We see JP actually checking what the 2 red crystals are. Meanwhile, Liminality making the play and actually finding the silvers in the basement of Tower of Hera. So not really a useful find for now. It's basically confirms that every player is going to find silvers most likely. So it's not really nice, but still.
And we find a shovel.
So another fetch quest that can be done soon. Meanwhile, we see Hype Cave. Let's see if we actually have something much nicer than Paradox Cave. So far not, though. We have 4 more chests. We find the second lift upgrade. That is certainly great.
That puts all of the Mire area into play now as well. Can't get the Mire since we have no medallions yet, but we can check out the shed and the other smaller sections there.
Indeed.
You can see the back 3 of Escape as well by Liminality over here.
Yeah, an easy quick check for 3 chests. Always nice. We get big 20, we get a small key to pod, and some more HP.
Shovel was in Hype Cave.
Indeed.
So that would be JP got the shovel. Because they'll take the long way up.
No, Shovel was not in the Hype Cave. Shovel was in Tower Hera.
Oh, correct, yes.
Well, we see JP is going to make the play to do the digging game, which is also a nice location that he can route in early on since he has the mitts. Sadly, he doesn't have the mirror to make really easy routing in of checks with the smith. But still, if he wants to, even though he doesn't have the boot, he can do Peg Cave. And can just keep routing in checks until he actually dips the... Oh, he actually finds a big key into the digging game. It's the big key to Thieves Town. So his choice of going for the silent play into moving upwards into the Dark Hole is actually validated. For now, I believe that he can fully clear Thieves Town.
Yes, we don't have that... well, he doesn't have that Thieves Town small key, so he can't get to the big chest, but he can get pretty much everything else.
But finding that big key is quite the incentive to actually go there and do further into the dungeon. So it's going to be interesting to see if he actually decides to kill Blind or not, because that could very well end up biting him later on if it turns out that the big chest has an important item. You know, Liminality accessing the Dark World from basically the from Kakariko and actually routing downwards. So he's not going to find that big key just yet, but since it's at the digging game, it's not really that big of a backtrack to actually go back.
Loonycloud checking the bat, and gets the bow for his troubles. That's a huge pickup. Early bow plus silver, that's going to make some other bosses much, much easier.
While Liminality finding just a shield upgrade in Skullwoods. Actually making the play to get the back check. A third small key to Mizramara found to see a house. But it appears that the game really wants progression to be found in Mizramara quite soon. We do have the flute, we do have the second lift upgrade, we just need a medallion to enter, and most likely Key of Samaria and the big key to make things even more attractive. But it appears that I really strongly believe that progression could be there.
Yeah, it's making it much more palpable to get in there.
While the back of Skullwoods only has yet another big 20, sadly. It always feels kind of bad when you actually make the play to check that back chest and then turns out it's nothing. But the few times that you find a hookshot or the hammer hide there, oh, it feels so good.
Yeah, Gazelle grabs her silver arrows from Hera, and I'm about to grab her shovel as well, and she'll be back down towards... I don't know where she'll probably head off to next.
Meanwhile, JP actually turning in the Smith. So it's a gamble that's much quicker to be done since he already did the Slout. So usually most people that don't find the myths actually do the save input anyway, and actually finds the cape. So it makes his northern routing of the Dark World even better, as now he has a reason to actually do the northern route without a mirror. So when he actually gets down to making the checks into Skullwoods, can actually check the what's on Bump Cave.
It was just a piece of heart, but it's better to have the ability to get it and not pick it up.
So it's a nice safety. Sometimes you need it. It makes some things easier. They're still quite at low health, and the logic actually wants them to go towards Thieves Town. So sometimes that fight can go wrong quickly. So having the cape is quite nice.
And Gazelle grabs her mitts, and then she's going to be on her way out to go somewhere else at this point. Probably go straight to the Dark World. She might go back into Kakariko area for a minute.
Seems about the time to actually... Oh, she's checking the back of Skip, which makes sense. As I said earlier, it's a really quick check. Loonycloud actually using the first small key to Castle Tower that he has to actually make the 2 checks in there. That will probably indicate that, oh, the small key tower Hera.
So that opens up one more location in Hera. So that could be a little bit of a red herring for us, or it could be something that pays off.
Indeed, it's not really a place that you want to go back to right away, since he has nothing else to check. But since, like, when he actually gets the big key to Tower Hera, it's going to make things a lot more interesting and a bigger incentive to go in that dungeon straight away.
So it looks like Gazelle's gonna go check the shovel and see if she loops up to the rest game herself.
Yeah, well, at this point she's so close, and it's a location that she often maybe she thinks, oh, maybe the myths could be there. Like, well, maybe not. She already has Dark World access. But definitely, like, it actually is the best time for her to route that location that she skipped in, now that she can actually turn in the shovel at the same time. Sadly, only getting some money in there.
Yeah, it does look like she's gonna head over and check the race game while she's here, so it makes sense.
Thank God. Though, it's not necessarily the... Oh, is she skipping it straight up? Oh, no, she's just checking the library first. The library having a small key.
Liminality, unfortunately, taking another death over here, so... Not again.
Ah, no, it's fine. It's a death ward to actually just leave.
Oh, okay.
So, thankfully, Giselle, being the second player, to actually get her Tempered Sword, which is a really nice thing to find. It makes killing a lot of bosses and clearing some room much simpler. So at this point, I'm really wondering, where's that fourth sword? Are we going to find Butter? The odds are in our favor, but where could it be?
It's funny how we're only 30 minutes in, and the game's like, here, have all the swords.
Indeed. Liminality about to find that big key to Thieves Town, and I'd be really surprised if he doesn't decide to go back to actually fulfill that dungeon, since he actually has a small key.
Looney grabs his tempered as well, so they're back on equal playing ground as far as swords go.
Mm-hmm. Giselle going to find her myths upgrade, which she's going to be happy to find. And there's that Liminality doesn't actually decide to go straight to the Thieves Town, actually making the rest of the southern shore checks.
And Stumpy just having a big heart piece for us.
Always nice to find more HP early on, and maybe Blue Mail eventually.
Yeah, the enemies in the Dark World still do quite a bit of damage, so they do between 2 and 3 hearts full, so getting a couple more hearts is definitely a good idea if you're going to be walking around the Dark World a little bit.
So Torrock and Skullwoods being our red crystals. We knew that earlier, but we never really touched on these things. It's going to maybe lead into a late Pyramid Fairy check, just because the rock requires so many more items. We still need to find King of Samara, we still need to actually find both rods and more keys to do that dungeon. So usually it's one of these dungeons that you see as holding red crystal, and you can put off Pyramid Fairy off your mind for a long time. On the pyramid, we're going to see finally what our item there is, and it's only some money, sadly. And at that point, I'd be really surprised if Giselle doesn't actually decide to ride in Catfish at this point, because there is no real better way or time to actually get there.
Yeah, it does look like that's where she's heading now. Yeah, Loonycloud is going into the formerly hype cave to grab his mitts, and he'll be happy to see those for sure.
Absolutely. Now Brewer is making his way into Thieves Town, and he still doesn't have the small key, so it's going to be interesting to see if after the next chests that he opened, if he decides to actually go all the way to kill Brian or not. We know, as commentators, that all of the locations in that dungeon are actually in the logic, and quite early at that, so there's still some good value for him to find maybe. It's just if there's an important item, that big chest, that might actually hurt him, and even if there is not, it might hurt him much later, as he actually needs to route in back in case there's something there. And we actually find value on Catfish, making all the way the trouble to go there all the way worth it, as Gesellschaft actually finding half magic.
Definitely a nice pickup, especially once you start getting down towards Skullwoods and Ice Palace. Lets us use those magic usages a little bit more efficiently.
Indeed. And
it
the
does look like
actually,
JP is going to the back of Thieves Town,
which is an interesting gamble. And I didn't quite check what was the required medallion to enter Mizermar. Did you catch it?
I did not. That was too quick for my eyes.
Yeah. Your streams can be a little bit
It's looking
blurry.
like it's Ether. And Myra should not having much for us, so we're going to be taking off from there. JP is about to check and see what the third floor at Blind's house has for us. Just a big 20 up there. And Loonycloud's making an early dip into a pod. Not a bad play, since he does have a couple keys under his belt.
We found 3 keys to pod so far, like overall across all players. So a lot of applications are certainly in the logic. He did find a bow, so that spares him from having to use one small key, since he also can combine it with the hammer, of course. And if he finds early value in there, it's certainly an advantage, because it's not necessarily all players that want to make the early bad play. The flute actually makes going there not that big of a deal, but it's just the fact that you have so many more interesting locations to check early on. Oh, Liminality actually making the play to Spike Cave. I like that one.
Doesn't have... Oh, he has the can of Brian, so yeah, he'll be able to get through here. And Gazelle grabbing the big key to our Turtle Rock. Nice pickup.
Oh.
Regaro, Bo was at Skullwoods. Sorry, Bo was at Batman.
Oh, it appears the Brewers actually had a small key to Thieves Town. My apologies. So certainly his routing is not questionable at all. It makes perfect sense. He can full clear the dungeon. And here we get in Hookshot Cave some arrows. A small key to pod, the 4th one. And the book.
That's the book. So I can just in the desert, and we have found the big key for desert already as well, so that lets us do a lot of damage in that desert section.
But we do not have the boots for the item on the lamp, and we do not have a small key. And until we actually find a small key, whatever you can get off of killing Landmolas is actually not in logic. Meanwhile, JP, like, not risking it, using Cane of Burnout to actually... using a cane to find a different cane right here in Thieves Town, and getting his first crystal.
That's a huge pickup for JP, and thankfully it is a crystal as well, so Thieves Town was the place to be.
Definitely.
Liminality not too far behind.
Remember when I said that it could be a late time before we actually get inside Turtle Rock? We're starting to rack up these items that are required to actually enter. Just need the both rods and a medallion, basically. And we see JP going straight for a purple check, which I quite like. It's also another way to actually get an advantage early on.
Loonycloud finding a vanilla key in the big key chest and pod. Just a vanilla small key, I should say.
So that's a 5th pod key found. Really just need that big key, and then the entirety of pod is basically in the logic, since I don't think most players will wait until they find the 6th one.
Now Gazelle is about to grab her bow as well, checking the bat. And she'll probably dip into a dark Kakariko as well.
Since she has 4 pod keys, that might actually push her into the direction of dipping pod herself. Another important navigation item that we have yet to find is the mirror. It's certainly not having it hurts the players since they have to go back to actually check a lot of orphan locations, such as the Cave South Grove, actually checking the Checkerboard Cave, the cave north of the graveyard. A lot of these small locations actually is really annoying to not have the hammer for them.
Yeah, it's always the one-off locations that are easy to slip your mind if you don't check them as soon as you can. So not having that...
Ooh, we have a pet check from Giselle.
It's definitely something that you want to get the knowledge for to see if you can actually need to clear everything or not. The thief in the forest being a little bit mean to her, no?
We don't actually have enough information as far as penance go to make a clear call as of what could be on the pad, but it's certainly possible. Oh, and sadly it's only a map. Or a compass. I'm not actually sure that message if it's a map or a compass, but regardless, the pet is dead. I'm sorry,
that's a compass.
Okay, yeah. So the players might be relieved, but it's going to make the race a little bit shorter, potentially.
Yeah, no Aghanim, at least for the most part, depending on what that key is, and no pedestal, unfortunately.
I'm really interested to find actually where that big key to pod is, since logic is screaming at everyone to go there, but it's still missing. You know, always see a hammer jump attempt from Loonycloud.
So this is a pixel perfect trick that Looney's trying to do, using those power stress to line up his character in the correct pixels.
Yeah, there's basically 2 pixel perfect plays that you have to make. You need to do a pixel perfect placement to be able to place your bomb at the right place, and then you need, after you place a bomb, you need to do another pixel perfect placement to be able to get flung by the bomb at the proper angle.
So it's a trick to pull off, pays off if something nice is over. Without the big key though, you can't check that big chest.
So later on, if he doesn't find another key, like, he might have to perform the trick again. But he might find value in there. He might even find the big key to pod, who knows. Sadly, only a bomb grade so far. Still another check, chest to check. Meanwhile, Liminality actually killing blind himself and also claiming his skin of Samaria. Oh, sadly, the Hammer-Yon not paying off right there, but he still saved that small key. So it could be relevant later on. With Liminality that's going to turn the frog, might actually, well, has little to no reason to not do the bat at the same time, so he's also going to find his bow. and then that might push him towards pod check. So far, we see every player making checking a lot of locations that we've seen already.
Yeah, since we're doing that, I just wanted to give a couple quick shouts. First of all, to our two fantastic trackers behind the scenes, Dragon Strike 1988 and Miss Metroid. Thank you both for doing a fantastic job for us. And of course, thank you to Feasel and the Speed Gaming family for putting on this tournament. This has been a lot of fun to watch and a lot of fun to call. So thank you to the entire admin staff of the tournament.
And to Sinak, our wonderful restreamer. Without him, we wouldn't be doing commentary right now. So yeah, we see a lot of the players basically doing back-to-backing, doing things that we've seen others do so far. So it's really basically what I'd like to call the mid-game downtime before the seed actually becomes clear. Like, despite all the information that we have as commentators, we don't actually know where the seed actually wants them to do. There's a location that the players have yet to go, and actually only Giselle can access, which is Desert Palace. They do not have the small key to Desert, but there certainly could be value into the first chest.
Loonycloud grabbing the big key to Turtle Rock. It does look like Giselle's going to head into Thieves Town to get what she can get here. I wouldn't be surprised if she clears the entire thing.
Oh, definitely. If you can, there is no reason not to. Though she has yet to do digging game, I believe. So she doesn't actually have that big key. So she's basically just going to get the first 4 items, keep doing overall checks most likely, then find that big key, and then she might just go back to actually do it. So what are the other locations that we've yet to see from any of the players that are yet to be checked? There's Desert Palace, we've seen the Pod Dip, we've seen the Hera Dip.
We haven't seen Hera Basement though, and that is unlocked.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah, that is one of the locations. We've seen the 2 checks in Castle Tower. What are the other fringe locations? We've seen Purple Chest.
So we gotta figure out where exactly we gotta go. So our mirror could be the next block that's holding us up a little bit.
So far, it appears that progression is in the fringe location, like one of these orphan locations. It could be the... No, it cannot be for chest 1. We don't have the mirror. But it... It's interesting.
Looks like Giselle's gonna take a walk away from Thieves Town.
Yeah, she doesn't have the big key, so she cannot actually clear. So she's going to do more overall checks and then find that big key. And then we'll see if she makes a decision to actually come back to a clear dungeon, actually get her first crystal, and claim the Kina Samara. Brewers and Loonycloud both making plays into the dark world of Death Mountain. So both players are going to be able to claim their book. Oh, we actually see our Great Fairy, a rare sight in tournament matches. Didn't tell you.
Yeah, this season's been very stingy on the hearts, so not a bad place to get a quick pickup.
No one finding any male upgrade as well. Yeah, this is a 2-1 match between all players. The 2 players at the top are facing each other, while the 2 players at the bottom are racing each other. So even if, say, Liminality win a match, this doesn't mean that the match at the bottom between Giselle and Loonycloud is actually over. And Loony making the mistake of touching the ball.
Quite a lengthy dig game.
It is quite a touching poem, though. And then Giselle actually finding that big key to Thieves Town.
I'll probably send her back up to that direction at this point.
And yeah, the pit's just going straight there. Which at that point, you have little reason not to. You can full clear a dungeon, and you know, like, if you don't make that play, others probably will. But then again, it's about thinking, what would my opponent do? So we see Liminality making his way into pod, going to make a lot of checks that's possible thanks to having so many of these small keys. But sadly not going to find much value. Yeah, at this point I really believe that progression is in one of these fringe locations that one really wants to go to. The basement of Tower Hera, Desert Palace, where you can only check 2 locations unless you decide to not kill the boss to smuggle a small key. Though that would be an interesting play, but I don't believe that many players are going to make that gamble this early when you actually have the big key.
Yeah, there wasn't much of worth pulled out of pod, surprisingly, considering how much stuff that told us to go here.
Yeah, like, in their position, they can basically full clear pod except for the big chest and killing the boss, so it's 12 out of 14 locations that are, like, obtainable, and there is basically nothing in that dungeon. It's really surprising with how much the seed screams and to go there. It's really like that big key that might end up having all the value. So meanwhile, Loonycloud going to Pinball Room to claim the small key to Skullwoods that he didn't find. So it makes this routing a little bit slower, but it's fair enough though. Brewers actually using that big key to Desert to make the check on the Desert big chest. And here we only find Bomb, sadly. But still, he can actually check some more. Fire Rod on the ledge, on the torch ledge, is going to make boots required to actually finish the seed, since we know that the Fire Rod is required since we need to kill Muffala and Trinix with it. And both of them actually being red crystal is actually really funny. And Brewer's actually going to get his big key sitting on the ledge that we forgot about as the big key to Mizurmar. So with King of Samaria, all he needs is to find either the Eater that Loonycloud found, and the entirety of Mizurmar is actually checkable. But for now, he's going to make the play to actually go kill Lenmos. Which at this point, you're right there, you may as well do it. Because you're going to have to come back later, most likely. So it's possible that Lenmos could actually be a pendant, but at that point, you don't really want to risk it. The big mindset of Keysanity is just like skip nothing, do everything. Even if you get the pendant of killing Lenmos, it could be a critical item. And it could be that Ice Rod, it could be one of the medallions that's required. You never know. Meanwhile, Giselle actually getting started on the blind fight. An interesting note about the blind fight is that if you actually know how to perform it, the fight is basically working on a script. So it's really one of the most hectic fights for a new player. But for an experienced player, it's really just a core that you get through.
A cakewalk for the most part, yeah. More of a time sink than anything.
Mm-hmm.
And JP is looking to Desert. Let's see what he gets on Mola's here. Just some bombs. But it is crystal.
Indeed, so progression has been done. And that Fire Rod actually pushes him to actually go kill, actually go to Skullwoods and actually kill Muffala. Just another thing that can be done is pretty tempting since we know it's another crystal. I read one of that. And Eater being in the Skullwoods big chest actually makes routing Skullwoods even more important right now, because at this point, what JP can do is route in Skullwoods, get Eater, and at that point he has all the information and the big key required to full clear Mizurmar. Do we actually know what Mizurmar is?
No, not yet.
We don't know, but at that point, you can full clear a dungeon. It's really difficult to say no. Especially since so much of the overworld has been done, and the locations that have not been checked are basically locked behind mirror or boots or other things like that. So at that point, if you can full clear a dungeon, you go straight there. You don't really
Does
care
he have
about
the Skullwood's big key yet, though?
He did. We actually, the Skullwood's big key. Oh, no, he doesn't actually have Skullwood's big key. Where was that again? Actually, is that in pod? That could be how Loonycloud actually got it. It was in the pod darkroom and I actually missed it. Yeah, it has to be. Because Liminality, that also did pod, actually found it as well. So pod dip actually required early on as progression to actually find the medallion to enter Mizramar. Interesting.
So Loonycloud's gonna get into Thieves Town now themselves. Gonna be able to kill Blind relatively quickly. Gazelle grabbing her cape. Loonycloud's gonna grab his Cane of Samaria, which that's the kind of thing that you need for Meyer, so that probably might sit in there.
Yeah, indeed. And does have the Skullwood's big key. Yeah, it appears that JP is actually going to make the pod dip at this point. So he's going to find that big key to Skullwoods, and then it's going to make going there even more tempting. After that, I believe that in his position, it would be really hard to make a different routing decision, I think. And after that, that would put him on the perfect path of full clear Skullwoods, full clear Mizramar. Yeah, either is in the Skullwood's big chest that requires the big key that is apparently in pod. So the pod dip could actually be completely required, unless, like, we still know that the basement of Tower Hera is a checkable location right now, and none of the players actually made the play to go back there, understandably. Though, with the players actually finding the book, you can actually route in the Eater tablet at the same time. So it's 2 locations right now, but still, you have so many more interesting things to do instead.
Probably want to hold that off until you get the mirror to make it a little bit quicker.
Yeah, exactly.
And Quake was on the torch. I didn't catch that when I stepped away for a second.
Yeah, absolutely. So the boots are required to actually enter Turtle Rock. Sadly, with the find of the Fire Rod, we now know that Bombos is a useless medallion this seed, not even needed to Ice Palace.
Question now is, where are our boots?
They could be at quite many places. They could be in the basement Tower of Hera. They could be into Mizramar. If we find that mirror and the small key, it could be in Swamp. If we find the big key to pod, it could be in the last 2 pod locations. If we find flippers, they can be into Ice Palace. It's a world of possibilities. Yeah, it is a fair assessment that boots are probably not in GT. I can also make the call that Ice Rod is also probably not in GT. What do you think?
All depends on if Turtle Rock is a crystal or not. I would assume
It
not.
is. It's a red one.
Oh yeah, okay, it's definitely not there.
Yep. And yeah, we get the confirmation that the Bikini Skullwoods is indeed in the first chest on the right side of pod. So now Brewers actually has the clean play in his mind. At least I hope so. Meanwhile, Giselle actually claiming her second crystal indeed. But basically, all of the players after that are going to have to potentially do another dip into. Well, they already know that they have to come back into Desert Palace to actually get Quake, but they might actually need to do a third one if it turns out that the small key is behind Quake and it's required for more items. So
at least Desert Palace is very, very quick though, and it's relatively easy to route in.
Yeah, but it's certainly like I find it's one of the dedications often in seeds that you're forced to dip even more times than, say, pod. It's sometimes ridiculous. But it's what happens when like a different subset of items found in the dungeon are actually locked behind several different items.
Loonycloud doing some dance with Lenmola, about to grab his bombs and his crystal. That'll be his first of the seed. With that fire rod, Gazelle can clear Skull Woods now.
And that's exactly where she's going. Sadly, without the big key to Skullwoods, then she's going to have to come back later for the big chest to actually get the big key to Mizramar. Not the big key to Mizramar, I'm confusing myself now. Guess we get Eater. Yeah, of course. The big key to Mizramar being in the desert ledge.
Still don't know exactly what my art is, so it may not even be needed. Does have quite a few items in it at the very least.
Yeah, definitely. And we know that the dungeon is accessible and full clearable. So at that point, once the players actually, once they all find that one last item they need for it, we're going to see most players make the play for it.
Because I'm making very quick work of Moth there.
Indeed. And we claim our first Red Crystal. But since the second one is in Turok, then it still makes the Fat Fairy play much later in the seed. And if Turok ends up being the last crystal obtained, then it puts Fat Fairy on it's basically not going to be done at all, since we already found a big key to GT. The big key to GT being really easy to find, the seed being into Blind's hut from the beginning.
Gazelle does have her Cane of Cain, right?
Yeah, she does have the red cane, since she killed the Blind, and Blind had it.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Did we make the joke that Blind was killed with a cane to get another cane? No?
Yes, you did. That's
Yes.
right.
Oh.
Okay, it looks like Gazelle is going to head towards Pod now with her assortment of keys and the bow.
Yeah, that point is the only play that really makes sense. And really, if there is an important item in Mizramar, if it's a crystal, she will have at some point to go back into Skullwoods just to open the big chest to be able to find Eater. So that could be a way that Loonycloud could get an advantage over her in this race. Well, Loonycloud actually doing the Multiply fight, which is quite easy when you have Temper. Just need to slash him 4 times.
Gazelle's back into Eastern. Did she find the big key somewhere?
The Eastern big key? I don't believe so. But she has yet to do a dip. Oh, no, she did a dip. Huh. Did she find the big key?
I did not catch it myself, so we'll find out momentarily.
Oh, maybe she... Oh. Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Oops.
Mistakes happen. Sometimes you forget you don't have a sword and you try to go kill him off. It happens. So now she basically needed to do the pod dip. But she has so many keys that it's difficult to justify it, right? Since there is an argument to be made that you want to wait for the big key in order to go there. Oh, finally, she's going to. She makes a decision good there, regardless, since at that point it's basically the highest density item location.
She has the bow, and she's very adept at that hammer jump, so she should be okay.
Oh yeah, definitely.
She won't be able to get the helmet strike, she won't be able to get the big chest, but she'll be able to do a full clear on pretty much everything else.
If there's a player that practices or bump jumps a lot, it's Dory. So, no worries there. They can definitely.
Where are our elusive flippers?
They cannot be in Ice Palace, and that's pretty much it, logic-wise. They could be in Mizrimar. Like, that's the big location. Mizrimar is basically the well of items in this seed so far. It's where you want to go just to get as many checks done as possible. And Brewer's actually getting either. So at that point, it's very likely that it's going to go to Mizrimar, and finally we're going to have information on what lies there.
Looks like Liminality is making the skill what's played net with the. There's not the fire rod yet. I think this might be their first dip into skull here. Yeah, it is.
And almost less than a minute difference with JP, Liminality, also going to find either. In a little bit of trouble with that bump jump, and it's understandable. When you don't have the boots to simplify things, sometimes pixel perfect movement can be quite difficult. But he finally gets it and finds either.
Loonycloud's about to go do their dig game. Not too much was over here, just a piece of heart, I believe, but might as well get to
the digging game. No, the digging game is the big key to Thieves Town. It's
that's
quite
right.
important.
That's right. Yes, that's right.
And that will put him on the path to actually killing Blind and finding that King of Samaria. And King of Samaria is actually the one thing that he needs to go Tower Hera himself. What am I saying? Why Tower Hera? Mizrimar. Thank God. Oof. How do you confuse Tower Hera and Mizrimar? Anyway, Liminality also headed into the back of Skullwoods to go kill Mafala. Yeah, it is entirely possible that boots are in the basement of Tower Hera. But that would be quite trolly, though. You don't really wish people that.
Boots can be in a lot of places right now.
Basically, anywhere that's logic-wise before Third Rock, which is quite a lot.
So we have simultaneous moth fights.
Indeed. The speed at which you kill that boss is basically down to how much you get rolled by the placement of the boss, because if it's overlaid with spikes, you cannot actually damage the boss. And it's quite of a wonder of programming, but still, both players not having too much of trouble and claiming their blue mail and their third crystal.
Oh, so Dory should have blue mail as well then.
And Senak, thank you for subscribing to ALTTP Randomizer. And also thanks to you for providing us this stream. Oh. Brewer's getting healing off of the old man and then going to Flute, and I'd be surprised if he doesn't go to Mizrimar, and that's exactly where he's going.
I guess I was gonna stab their bomb jump. But maybe not quite yet.
You know, it looks like Loonycloud is behind Giselle in terms of routing, just because he has yet to kill Blind and actually get the King of Samaria. But he basically got everything else beforehand. And Giselle is going to have to go back to an orphaned Skullwood's big chest in order to be able to get the medallion required to enter Misery Mire. So it's really easy for Giselle to lose an advantage here.
The one thing is, as far as that goes, is she's running out of spots that she can check, especially without the mirror. So she's kind of getting forced to go back there regardless.
Not necessarily, because she can fake Flipper's Ice Palace. It is outside of the logic, but when you can do it, sometimes you're tempted. Though she doesn't have the big key for it, so it is not really that preferable. But really, it's all in the order in which you also decide to make the remaining checks, because there's still that basement of Tower Hera that no one wants to go to. If she decides to go there and there's no value, then she progressively loses even more of an advantage, especially if Loonycloud doesn't have to do a Tower Hera triple dip.
On that same point, if she goes there and someone with the boots, that just gives her a lot more advantage.
Indeed. Well, it's a different advantage, because then she's going to be pushed into a different direction. She might decide to actually go Turok instead of Mr. Mire. And Turok is certainly enterable, but we don't have enough to just do it. The Tower Hera small key was inside the castle tower. The Ice Rod, we have absolutely no idea where it is. And we find a big key to pod inside Misery Mire. Oh, this is huge. That was quite an interesting series of locations that the seal wanted you to go to. You had to go to Pod in order to actually go to Skullwoods to get the medallion to enter Misery Mire in order to get the big key to finish Pod. While basically almost all of the Pod small keys except one were in the logic before all of this. This is really interesting and funny. And we have almost a sync at the top of the screen.
Yeah, this is a little bit of a roundabout seed where the seed kind of wants you to double, triple dip dungeons quite a bit, it seems.
The top race is basically in sync overall. Like, do they even have much of a difference in terms of items? I think Brewers has like one more key. That's it. The Eater tablet being a bust. And since Giselle doesn't actually have the small key to Tower House, since she doesn't have the castle tower done yet, she's not going to be able to check the location. But thankfully, it appears that she's going straight for the Skullwood's big chest.
Yeah, she's kind of getting funneled there. Not a ton of locations she can check, so...
If she gets that item, if she gets Eater, this is going to funnel her perfectly into Misery Mire, as the two top players have been. So that actually could put her on the lead over Loonycloud. Since the seed is funneling the players. Oh, and the spike chest in Misery Mire actually has a mirror. This is a beautiful find to have.
Yeah, so this is, as you called it earlier, this Misery Mire has been huge.
Yeah, like, it appears that logic-wise, once you're kind of out of important checks in the overworld, Misery Mire is basically the end of Act 1 of the seed and the beginning of Act 2. Like, all the players need to be funneled there and actually make these important checks and clear the dungeon in order to move on. So yeah, like...
Gazelle's going straight there to grab her goodies.
And like, basically, everyone's going to be in Misery Mire at the same time. Yeah, like, the entire seed at this point, this is a great equalizer, as we call it. Like, no matter the order in which you check things, you are going to be forced into the location. And even though people have been doing things in different order, everyone's forced back there. So it's basically like 1 hour and 9 minutes into a seed. It's basically as if we're at square one.
Majadi and chat bring up a good point that this is where execution comes into play big time. Could be a race of who has the better execution skills at this point.
Yeah, but the seed still has a few ways of throwing curveballs.
Oh, that's just randomizer in general, yeah, for sure.
Indeed. Like, the seed is linear so far, but a thing that can be quite scary in Keysanity is when you get too many options opened up at the same time in the back of a seed, where like you have these options of like, okay, I can simultaneously go, say, Misermire, Ice Palace, or to the Rock. Which one is the correct play? And if you make one decision over a different one, then it can affect the entirety of routing and actually give you a 5-minute difference in the end over another player that was at the same place at the same point in the seed as you. And meanwhile, JP using the bow to actually make quick work of Vitreous, of course, Vitreous, and actually gets his red pendant, so it's not exactly useful, but it was a location that every single player had to go to at some point, and you'd be really damned if you decided to just skip Vitreous at that point. So it's not really any time lost at all.
Yeah, and Vitreous with Silver Arrows is an absolute joke, so might as well do it while you're here.
Absolutely. Is going to make a checkerboard cave straight away with the mirror that we found into Mire. This could pay off. We're still looking for those flippers to be able to do Swamp Palace. Sadly, checkerboard cave only going to have a little bit of love. But still, all of the players are quite low in HP still for this moment in the race. So it's going to make the decision to pick it and then move on. Most players are going to make that check afterwards, since the mirror is just readily available. You're already there.
This opens up the graveyard ledge. It opens up the cave south of the grove. So quite a few places we can get to now that we have that mirror.
And makes actually making the check of the Eater tablet into the basement of Tower Hera like much more fast to do. He's actually making the play on the tablet, it seems. He could chain it into Spike Cage if he has yet to do it. I actually forget.
I do want to bring up a good point. Willard Bradley, one of our fantastic admins in chat, brings up a good point that we still need that small key to Swamp Palace. And what's on the Lumberjack ledge there, Trality?
It's a small key. We don't know where, but it's entirely possible that Aga 1 is required still. We just don't know. And I guess we will not know until we either find that key or until one of the players finally crack and decide to gamble on it. But I'd be really hyped to see one of the players just making a ballsy decision and deciding, okay, yeah, that has to be the key at that point. I need to go back there. And also, the players need to not forget about that small key. If it turns out that small key is the crux of the entire seed, and you actually forgot that there is a small key there, it could be a disaster.
There is a key on Hylian Ledge as well in the lake.
Yeah, it could also be that one, but you need flippers unless you do glitches to actually get there. Yeah, it is definitely another available location for it.
Now JP is looking like he's going down. He can't he can't get down there quite yet.
Yeah, mirror spots and Hera basement are logically the only few locations left, and there's of course. No, we still need the second Castle Tower key to be able to get the Lumberjack Cave key. Oh, also we can finish Pod. We got the Pod big key. So killing King Helmazor and the big chest of Pod are absolutely in the logic, and that's what Liminality is going straight to do.
And Majadi in chat, we don't have flippers yet.
No, we don't.
We do have that first chest in Swamp that we don't necessarily need the small key for. Need flippers.
Yeah, so we need flippers for that though, but it's entirely possible that once we find flippers, we can find value in that chest. And I really hope that it doesn't come up to this with the players, because it's my most hated chest in the entire game. I hate when it's required. A good thing is that we found so many small keys to Pod that Liminality actually can afford to open the main door of the dungeon if you do the hammer jump. and a big heart into the big chest. So it's always a nice little safety to find. Meanwhile, Giselle actually doing Vitreous using sword strats, which when you have tempered, we may as well. And
Very nice fight
quick.
by Gazelle there.
She's going to find her third ball, and then it's probably going to put her on the path to finishing pod, just like Liminality is doing. And right there...
Logically, that makes the right sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And right there, it maybe puts her 2 minutes ahead of her opponent in this race. So it's definitely a close one. Both races are extremely close, and like anything could happen to change how it goes.
Tim Lobo paired with a compass today.
Yeah, sadly the pet is dead, but Agar one is still not dead because it's a small key right there. So yep, potentially...
Still have that big question mark over Aghanim 1 at the moment.
Indeed.
So JP is doing the mirror spot checks now, so he's going to check King's Tomb and this Grove chest.
Yeah, which are
the ledge chest, I should say.
So now we have a fourth player that killed Vitreous. Liminality making his way to King Helmazar, another location that's yet to be done. Brewers probably going to head... Oh, Castle Tower. So he's actually going to find a small key tower here, which is probably not the thing that he wants to see since he just was there a moment ago.
We're still missing that second key to get all the way up, but he's gonna get that first chest.
Yeah, and even in that situation, even if you know that there's a small key in there, you don't necessarily want to go there straight away, since it's such a time loss. If you actually do Agar 1 and then turns out it was not required, you kind of feel like a fool.
Yeah, that's just 6 minutes of pain.
Oh yeah, and Brewers doesn't actually have one small key to Castle Tower. So he's really gambling there. It might actually go straight back. Who knows? He has yet to do Catfish to find his half magic as well. So he might go there. He can finish Pod. He has many options, and none of them are really that attractive. Maybe finishing Pod's the best one.
And Gazelle just grabs her boots and Graveyard Ledge. That's a huge pickup.
So that actually opens up access to Turrock. So we can actually get more items in there. And I believe we found 2 or 3 small keys to Turrock.
And just a piece of heart in King's Tomb. Gazelle will probably run back to the desert to grab Quake Medallion.
And like finding these boots is actually one way that she can get even more ground on her opponent. Not only because the boost location was kind of a annoying out of the way one, but also just like the difference of time between her actually claiming them and her opponent is actually going to put a great deal of time between them.
And we have that small key in the library as well that we can bonk off.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But it's going to be down once again if the players remember it. And... She has the possibility of routing in the cave style of Grove with the Darkwold and getting that small key at the same time using the mirror. So I believe that's what she's going to do.
Being able to use those boots to run around is much nicer than just walking everywhere.
Indeed.
And you're saying about Liminality?
He's finally doing his first play into Eastern Palace. It's a location that he has yet to do at all since the beginning. So
interesting that you make your first dip into Eastern hour 20 into the seed.
Yeah, it's interesting, but like it's always a creeping worry. As you're that deep into a seed, the seed's getting stingy, you're not really sure where to go, and there's these 4 early locations that the seed could have had value in there since the very beginning that you chose to skip.
Hey, and Magius1, thank you for the Twitch Prime sub. Thank you for supporting A Link to the Past Randomizer. We appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the shovel was nothing. And it appears that Giselle actually forgot about the library small key.
We're about to get a check by JP on this big chest in pod.
Oh, actually, Liminality did it earlier. It is a hard container.
Oh, okay, so not much here.
Yeah. Oh, and we actually also get the Bombo tablet check, which is another location that we actually forgot about. I don't think any other player did it. Or did they? I forget. Hard container. So yeah, there is this library small key, the basement of Tower here. I'm actually surprised how deep we are in the seed. And like that small key Tower here, we found it like an hour ago. And we've yet to see a single player actually go there.
Interesting to flute away from. Oh, never mind, that guy, she's going back that way. I was gonna say interesting to flute away from desert, but she's going right back.
Actually going to get Quake. And probably going to use that Quake to finally enter Turok. Which, if she finds value in there, like, she doesn't have the Ice Rod, so she's not going to be able to go kill Trinex. And she's missing, like, one small key to be able to do all of the checks. But if you do find value in there, if the logic intended you to actually go into Turok quite early at this point, then that's where you can get a solid advantage. Oh,
it looks like she's making that play down to the library now.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is a solid thing to do. Like, if you actually find that small key to swamp, well, the small key to swamp is not actually really, like, it does nothing right now since we have yet to find the flippers. But like a small key to Turok could be a big indicator that, yeah, that's where you want to go. And it is.
And there is our swamp key.
So unfortunately, it appears that is there really a possibility that you'd have to do Aga 1 for the small key? Like, if there's value behind Desert? And that's kind of it, I think.
Gazelle might be heading up towards our castle tower now to get those chests. That's going to give her the Harris small key at the very worst.
Yeah, it could absolutely be the Ice Rod to the right side of Desert Palace. So that small key is still not out of the option yet until we actually find that Ice Rod at least. Thanks for Miss Metroid actually tracking for us for that bit of information. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, special thank you to both of our fantastic trackers. They've been doing a fantastic job for us.
Absolutely. I mentioned Miss Metroid, but the other one is called Dragon's Ride 1988. Thank you very much for your time.
And of course, we would be remiss in saying, please give all 4 of these runners a follow for this heck of a race. Both these races are super close. A lot of fun to watch, so definitely give them some support, please.
Yeah, this is quite a hype race. Like, we still yet to really find the thread of the logic. Like, we have to rock access, but it's still not really tempting. So we see a lot of players checking French locations, and Liminality right there actually finally find M's boost. So now we're going to proceed into checking the boost location. Have we actually gotten a Kingstone check? I remember Bonkrox, but not Kingstone.
Yes, Gazelle checked Kingstone.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Looks like Dory's gonna go finish off pod now with the big key.
Yeah, you can finish it. It's only 2 checks, but at that point, I don't know if she knows if it's a crystal or not, but you still do it.
And she'll be happy to see it is definitely a crystal, so.
Yeah, absolutely. So... Brewers dipping Eastern. Is that also a location that has yet to do? It's kind of a problem with Keysanity seas. It's so hard to track at the mid game what the players actually did and didn't do, and it appears that Brewers had also yet to do Eastern Palace. You won't find much value in there, but still, it's 4 checks, and at that point, even if you were waiting to actually go in that location to actually single dip it, you can't afford it at that point. It's 4 checks, and the rest of the map has little more. Like, basically, right now his bottleneck is actually to find the boots in the graveyard cave. It's not necessarily a location that you want to go to straight up, especially since you already did the check of Bumper Cave, yes. If you already checked Bumper Cave and you know there's nothing there, and you have yet to find the boots, then all of the other locations there are really unattractive. So you just do a long trip just to go straight into the graveyard ledge. And that's really not a thing that most players want to do straight up. So it's definitely an advantage from Liminality to find the boots before JP.
And Looney grabbing his half magic, and he's about to get scammed by King Zor.
Yeah. Not much value there, and it's also another way that Giselle is actually going to get an advantage over Looney. Looney also desperately needs to find these boots quick. Because it's not just the fact that boots are allegedly, apparently locking the rest of the seed, is that it's also boots. The amount of time that you don't have them is extra, we'll call it execution time, that the other players are gaining over you naturally.
Yeah, just to be able to run back and forth across Hyrule is definitely a nice feeling.
And, I mean, there's still the basement of Tower Hera.
I would imagine that Gazelle will check that before she makes that T-Rock play, which is probably the next place she's going to go after Pud.
Yeah, it makes sense to make those two at the same time, especially like you have the mirror to actually quickly go into Tower Hera, so it's not a big detour. Giselle doing these bufferless hammer hits on Helmazor, which is faster than buffer meta. It's a little bit more of a gamble. You hope that you don't miss too many hits, so it's worth the time save, and it absolutely wasn't that time. So a quick, clean fight from her.
Yep, one shot to the crystal with the silver arrow puts Helmazor into the grave.
Sometimes the boss can just decide to move around a lot, and then you just get bodied. But he was nice today.
So we might see the first Hera basement play by Looney. It looks like he's heading towards that section now.
Oh, actually, yeah. Both of these players are going to do the Hera play at the same time. Salil appears... I do believe that Liminality went back to get Quake. I do believe that he has Quake, so he's going to be able to route in doing Turok afterwards. So it's much better of a play for him. Then Loonycloud only gets the check and he's going to have to leave to actually find the boots to be able to finally get Quake, to have to come back for the rock. Yeah, next time Liminality opens the inventory, I'm going to try to make sure that if he has Quake or not. Well, I strongly believe he does.
So it's funny that we have 3 people in Tower
the waiting room
at the exact same time in the waiting room. Yes.
This is great.
Well, it just goes to show you just how even these 4 runners are. This has been a very, very competitive race.
Well, it's a seed that basically, this is the epitome of a linear seed that basically funnels all of the players at the same point, no matter the order of checks that has been done before. So, yeah, it is a statement about the quality of the players, but it's also designed the seed. And we only find a Compass Ice Palace in there, so oh my god. This is the most disappointing Hera basement I've ever seen.
Yeah, that's kind of just a kick to the pants.
Yeah. It's a location that was opened up for over an hour at this point, and it turns out to be absolutely nothing, and 3 players get burned by it at the same time.
That's your expletive deleted moment.
Mm-hmm. And Liminality actually looking to be the first person to actually enter Turok. And at that point, Turok has to have the answers, right? Because what
I think
else
we're
is
gonna.
there?
I think we're gonna at least find our flippers in Turtle at the very, very least.
Yeah, flippers will open both Swamp Palace and Ice Palace, and like we're slowly running out of options and dungeons to actually go to. So I'd be quite surprised if we don't find anything there. Like we have to. So basically, item-wise, we absolutely need the Ice Rod in order to kill Franex to get a crystal. And we also need the flippers to get another crystal in Swamp. So item-wise, that's all that we required. Now key-wise, it's interesting. We do need the big key to Eastern Palace. We have yet to find that one. And for the other dungeons, I don't believe that we're missing much. The small key to Desert could be in the logic.
Gazelle has that small key to Swamp. I believe she's the only one that. Well, no, Liminality has it also, and Brewers picked it up as well. Looney has to get to Graveyard Let's to grab his boots.
Yeah. The small key to Desert that could still be in the logic. Other than that, the other ones are not really important. So like, we're almost basically 3 items away from Go mode.
And Liminality grabs that 4th Turtle Rock key up on Floating Island.
It's actually a really close race. In between 2 players are not actually racing each other. This is interesting.
Yeah, it looks like Daria is right on his heels to get that key. Really nice to be able to clear out as much Turtle Rock as you can. That way, if you do have to come back here, if that Turtle Rock big key is not here, there's just less place that you have to go dig your head at.
And meanwhile, JP is not necessarily that far behind. He actually found his boots, and now he's proceeding to get the Quake Medallion. So the Turtle Rock play is not that far behind for him to endure. Meanwhile, Looney is still looking for these boots, and it's entirely possible that he's going to go in that direction quite soon. He doesn't have that many locations left to check as well. And you just hope that you don't get a tournament match where your force progression item is in the very last location you have left. That always feels awful when it happens. Get a small key to Skullwoods on the right side of Turok. So not quite useful at all. It's actually quite useless at that point since every single player has full cleared the dungeon right now. But
I do love that the Kane and Brian swag strats running through the spike room.
Yeah, it's actually it's probably the faster way to actually get to that room. I don't want to make claims that I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, it's a quite efficient way of getting through.
JP unfortunately getting deadlocked.
Oh no. That also is one of the things that feel awful.
Yeah, imagine being the developer of this game. Let's put the most obnoxious enemy that stops you moving in spaces that are very tight to pass.
Yeah, and at the same time, let's just add cauliflowers that fall from the sky. And just like try to obliterate you. I'll tell you, if you ever played Randomizer, Death Mountain is a fun place to be. Especially when the cabbages decide to do 6 hearts of damage. It's fun. Meanwhile, Liminality actually headed towards the big chest location of Turok, so we are going to be able to know if there's anything important there. Since he actually found all of the keys, he has no reason to actually check that. And he actually finds the red mail. So it's convenient, especially since he only has 10 HP, but it's not what you're looking for at this point.
No, you really want the keys, or you really want your ice rod at this point, and especially you want your flippers.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, and sadly, we're going to see a death from Gesellschaft. It's going to have to keep heading into the dungeon anyway. So it's basically 1 minute of time loss, I'd say. But you want to avoid that. She still has a buffer since it appears that her opponent is still looking for the boots. But it's not mistakes that you want to ever make.
Yeah, those chain chomps are brutal. They do, I believe, 400 damage.
Yes.
Thankfully, that room that she died on was not too deep in.
Yeah, it's basically just 1 minute time loss, right about. But she has a solid buffer. Her opponent needs to find the boots and then go back to desert to get the medallion and then go all the way to Turok. And then he might have to actually do the hookshot cave to find the fourth key. Yeah, so there's still a buffer there. And we're going to see if there's something interesting. Oh, we find our fourth ball actually in the Mimic Cave.
I mean, our top race is equally close. Both of them are in the same dungeon at the same time. They both have pretty much all the same gear. So right now, as far as the top race goes, it's definitely just a matter of execution.
Yeah, top race is very close. Bottom race has a little bit more of, I'd say, like item location lock in it, and also like the execution of the rest of the seed actually allowing certain players to make more checks faster than another one. So you certainly get advantages along the course of the seed, and unless you get really screwed over by logic, you basically reap the advantages of these small advantages that you got over time.
Now, we also did just find the mushroom, so that puts one more item in play.
Yeah, and thankfully they have the flute, so it's a really easy check. The players just need to not forget that they actually found the mushroom. By that point, there's so many locations check that it has to be fresh in your mind. You just think, oh, I found a mushroom. That's one more location I can finally go to.
Mushroom flippers, maybe?
Mushroom flippers, mushroom ice rod, mushroom Eastern Palace big key. That's basically the 3 islands we're still looking for, and we have yet to know where they are.
Yeah, mushroom was in Tartarok. Liminality just picked it up a few moments ago, and Gesellschaft will grab it momentarily. It was in the big chest.
And we get our flippers finally in Laser Bridge, so that opens the logic for 2 more dungeons. We can now do Ice Palace, and we can do Swamp Palace. So this is definitely like a thing that you want to find, but you're in that weird situation where one of the dungeons, Ice Palace, is actually a pendant dungeon, and the other one is a crystal dungeon. But
now, the question is, which one did you go to first? Because if you can go build Swamp, you save a ton of time.
Yeah, but still, you're still looking for 2 more items in order to be able to do said go mode.
And we're also missing our Eastern Palace big key, which is going to be huge.
Yeah, exactly. And that's as soon as you find that Eastern Palace big key, go straight in to clear it. Since you're not going to find anything that's going to ever make it faster, and you might find the remaining item there. We actually find a small key from the Mushroom Fetch quest, and it's actually the 6th key to to Pod. So disappointment, but at the same time you can route it and actually buy blue potions, just as Liminality just did. And usually these potions are all you need left for the remainder of the seed, so it's quite efficient.
So at this point, you would think Swamp would be the first play to hopefully clear that out and not even have to worry about ice.
Yeah, I definitely full clear Swamp, since the logic wants me to go there, and I have the big key, so I will not have to go back there ever after. Meanwhile, Ice Palace, it's a pendant. Like, that's fair enough. Like, progression can still be there, pendant or not. But you also don't have the big key to Ice Palace, so that makes the play a lot less attractive, definitely. So I think Swamp Palace is the safe play, and like you're not going to lose that much time since you have to go there. It's basically like are other players at this point going to make a different play that will give them go mode and allow them to go mode Swamp Palace or not? And at that point, like it will be ballsy for that to happen.
Gonna do the quick mushroom check first.
Actually, doing a little spin speed to save time right there.
Yeah, that was a beautiful laser bridge by Excel. Very, very nice execution on her part.
Yeah, absolutely. And it appears that Liminality is going straight for the Swamp Palace play. You can full clear, so like it's difficult to say no to it. But at that point, like the seed is giving you options. Which one's the correct one? Is what everyone's wondering. But if progression's in ice, you can still just do ice afterwards. So you can't.
Yeah, I mean,
really...
you're gonna be right next door to it, so it's not gonna look like it's gonna be out of your way.
Exactly.
And Louis did grab his boots in Quake, so he is gonna be heading up towards Turtle Rock now as well.
Yeah, Celery, like his opponent is gaining more and more time. However, so it's definitely a worry for Loonycloud. JP also behind in his one race, but not that much though. It's really just about finding these flippers and then maybe or maybe not is going to turn in the mushroom and then going either Swamp or Ice Palace. If he decides to make an Ice Palace gamble, that is where a time difference could happen this seed.
See if Loonycloud makes that play to go into Hera Basement as well. Get that disappointing compass.
It's... If he feels behind, he might not. That is interesting. Like, you're at a point where you have to maybe start taking risk, time-wise. We're 1 hour and 41 minutes into the seed, and there's still a lot of unattractive locations like the Tower Hera basement that you have to start thinking about gambling.
Yeah, but it doesn't look like he's going straight to our Turtle Rock, so it looks like he might be skipping that location for now. He's not going to get his 4th key, though, if he doesn't go to that island. It will only block him from red mail, so it's not the worst of things, but with he doesn't have a ton of hearts, so it would have been nice to pick up.
Yeah, well, mail upgrades are always these things that it's nice to have, but you wish you actually found something better. Like, you wish you found progression instead of these things. So, like, if you don't exactly need these items, it's basically as if you picked up nothing. It's like, who really cares about shield upgrades, right?
Nice for the laser bridge, but that's about it.
Mm-hmm.
And as we
Like,
saw Gazelle just do, we don't even need shield if you're good with your laser skips.
Yeah. And the big chest of Swamp Palace actually holding the Ice Rod, so we can go back and kill Trinex now.
I'm sure we'll do that right before Gans Tower, though.
Yeah. The only way that this could be bad is if Trinex is actually holding the Eastern Palace Big Key, which, mind you, is the remaining item that we need in the entire seed. We just need the Eastern Palace Big Key, and then the seed is solved. It's just a race to the finish. So there's still quite a it's not that many locations where it could be. It could be in the rest of Swamp. And at that point, you're still looking for only 1 key, so like, do you gamble the rest of Swamp or not? That is a question. It could be in Ice Palace, and it could be on Trinex.
Looks like Giselle is skipping left side Swamp and heading towards the end. She knows that she just needs that big key to Eastern, and that
she
is
finds
right
it.
there.
1 hour, 34 minutes, and 56 seconds. We have our first player in go mode. And like, from here is going to be...
And there's our small key for desert.
Oh, well. Well then. Turns out it was not useful at all. And it's probably like a small key to Ice Palace that turned out to be on the Lumberjack Cave, after all. But yeah, it's going to be definitely difficult for Loonycloud to actually come back in this seed. Since like their entire rest of the seed is purely execution based for Giselle. And she is quite known for execution.
doesn't have to go into Ice Palace at the very least. And she's
So-
gonna actually absolutely shred Argus here.
We were talking about the potential Ice Palace play, and turns out it would have been an absolute killer there. If you made that play, you lost the race. Oh, almost getting the one cycle with the Ice Rod on Argus. It's quite hard to do, but when you nail it, it feels really nice.
So now she just has to run over to Eastern, run right to the back of Armos, then just climb Death Mountain one more time, and have a date with Trinex.
Yeah. Probably going to head up on killing Armos first. There's no reason to do anything in a different order, basically. Yeah, like, that Argus fight was disgustingly amazing.
Now, Brewers and Liminality are still extremely close. They're both going to get the go mode at roughly the same time. They have to do pretty much the same exact thing, so they are going to be pure execution.
Brewers can get a little bit more of an advantage if he decides to skip the left side swamp, which Liminality actually did. But at that point, skipping it is like, we obviously know what play is the better one, but even if you don't know, you can just go kill the boss and like hoping that the key is on the way, like your last remaining item is there. And then if you don't find it, then you can dip back into the dungeon and like still finish it. It's not that much of a time loss since you probably already pulled the levers. But
yeah, the entrance to the left side is so close to start. It's not the biggest of gambles.
Yeah, because like what JP is currently doing, like reflooding the rooms, is already done with if you kill the boss and you just go back straight in. So it's not that much of a time loss. But yeah, he will certainly get back last time if he decides to skip left side. He will hit his go mode and then he will know that he never has to come back here again. And then the rest of the stage is going to be pure execution based.
Liminality also making very nice work at Argus. One shot with the silvers takes the big eyeball down.
Well, he gets a big 20, but at the point you're in go mode, you don't really care. The only thing that you could find that will make the rest of the seed like easier will be Butter Sword, but it's not even really anything helpful. So like Butter Sword and health is all it needs. Oh, it appears that Brewers is actually, JP, also skipping the left side of Swamp Palace. So he's going to gain some time there. It's exactly what he needs.
Yeah, he's going to be a little bit behind, but anything can still happen if Liminality takes a fall on Trolldown 2, for example, or has a Babbling Mola 2. Definitely enough time for JP to catch up. He's not behind at all.
And meanwhile, Giselle getting off a really clean fight on Armos, getting her 6th crystal, and now all she needs left to do in the entire seed is go kill Trinex and then go kill Ganon.
Brewers seeing his big key at Eastern, very happy to see that because that puts him in the go mode as well.
Yeah. We had a question in chat about them technically not being go mode since they still need GT Tower small key. They don't actually need to find any in order to navigate the rest of the dungeon, since you do need one small key in order to progress in a tower, but there is a guaranteed one that you can find in the basement on the left side, if in the room where you need to use the hammer to push a block. You can just get that small key and then proceed upstairs, and then for the rest you're covered. So yeah, they don't actually need to find any GT small key. They can just go straight upstairs after they got one from the basement.
Yep, just gotta rob the basement and then on the way up to the tower. JP taking care of Argus. A little bit longer fight, but I was still making very nice work of him though.
He's really not far behind, and mistakes can certainly happen from a player and another that put the other one ahead. Like an unfortunate death, a fall to Ganon, a fall to Molem Tree. Like small mistakes can certainly add up and allow another player to come back. So it's definitely a quite close race between these two players.
And even just a Trolley Gauntlet could give JP enough time to catch back up. He is probably, maybe I want to say about 2 minutes behind or so, but not that much at all.
Yeah, that's like we've seen some mistakes from other players, like Giselle dying to the chain chomps. Like mistakes certainly happen, no matter how good you are at the game. So you just need to keep playing the best you can, not really worry too much about your time, and keep going forward.
Yeah, you kind of just have to play your own race, worry about yourself, worry about what you're doing, and just kind of put everything else out of your mind until you see those dot-downs start coming in.
Yeah, logic-wise, you're playing your opponent, but we found Go mode, so at that point you're just playing yourself in your own execution. So that's why practicing that as much as you can is actually really important.
And you know that if you're in Go mode, your opponents are most likely in Go mode too. So if you see that done, you know you're not too far behind the next person ahead of you.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to see like a lot of really close times. Because, yeah, Giselle has an advantage over Loonycloud, but like compared to Liminality, it's not that big. It's basically what you'd say 3-4 minutes.
Yeah, give or take, and maybe 7 to 10 ahead of JP. So
Yeah.
all three of them are definitely gonna be in Gans Tower at the same time.
And Loony is actually about to get his go mode himself. So we're looking at least like all 4 runners finishing within the same 15 minutes. And it's not going to be a long seed at all, despite the kind of the trolliness and the funneling of it. Not having to do Ice Palace at all is a big time save.
I think Looney's biggest issue was just not finding those boots, not going back to Graveyard Ledge fast enough.
Yeah, but like that location was definitely not attractive, right? So can't really blame him for not wanting to do that location over other ones. It just happened that he got unlucky in that specific race, and it's rando. Things happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything can happen to Randomizer, and it's just a matter of when you check X item at X time. And a very nice try next by Gesellschaft there.
Absolutely. And with that crystal, that will put her at her 7th, and she will be able to enter GT. Oh, the small key to Harrow Castle, held by Tranex. Oof.
That's helpful at 2 hours in.
It's one of these items that is really on the bottom tier of usefulness in Keysanity. Sometimes logic requires you to actually find it plus LM to get the backup escape checks, but most of the time it's as useful as the map of Harrow Castle. So we have yet to find butter, and that's really the last item that could be useful in the rest of the seed. Though at this point, it'll really surprise me if Giselle will open chests while doing the Ganon Tower Ascent. Because, like, with everything that she has, she's perfectly comfortable finishing the rest of the seed. And
yeah, I think she's just gonna fly straight up.
Oh, she forgot about a small key. Oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no. Oh,
she's looking.
Oh, she remembered. Oof, crisis averted.
Yeah, she took a look. She's like, wait a second, I'm missing something. I have 0 keys. Oops.
Because that could have been a mistake that puts Loonycloud like closer to her. Okay, now that she has a small key, she's good for the rest of the seed. Oh, you don't want to do like almost all of the ascent and then hit that door and just like, oh no, what have I done? Meanwhile, Liminality lining up to do his turn next fight. Should be a clean one as well.
And JP is entering Turtle Rock just as Liminality is finishing.
Okay, never mind. I had a small technical issue on my end.
No worries.
And of course, another clean fight of Trinex. Putting Liminality maybe 3 minutes behind Giselle, so he's He's probably happy with his performance at this point, but as long as you have yet to find a dot done, you're always worried. Am I going to get just have my dot done ninja'd by my opponent or not? You don't want to get sniped. That would feel bad. Like you're in the Ganon fight, you feel really good. Oh, no one has dot done yet, and then dot done starts happening. So we're going to have a second player entering Ganon Star, finally. Meanwhile, BrewersFan on his way to get his last crystal, while Loonycloud on his way to find his second to last crystal, but still equally in go mode. So really, the rest of the seed is down to execution for all players.
That fairy just juked just a little bit and floated out of its way right before she got grabbed.
Yeah. That's okay, she's going to have more opportunities to find some more healing for the rest of this seed. I don't actually know if she has potions at all, though. If she bought some, I personally missed that. But she should be fine still. She has more opportunities to actually powder and get some health up before the Aghanim 2 fight. And
she has something in her bottle. I didn't catch what it was. It might be a fairy, but it could be a bee too. I'm not positive.
Well, if she has a potion or a fairy, she should be good for the rest of the seed. You have silvers, so getting a torch glitch or like magic in general is not that important during the Ganon fight. You have tempered, so you can one cycles. Like the fight's not going to stay be long enough for it to become a real issue.
To answer the question in chat, all these guys are 2-1.
Yeah, so this is both races are a struggle to stay relevant in this race, since if you lose 2 matches, you basically cannot possibly make it into the top 8, which is required to move on to the second round of this tournament. So there were maybe about 204 or 208 players at the beginning of the tournament, but only 8 of all of these players can move on to the next round. It's pretty cutthroat.
Yeah, we're gonna have 7 people who are gonna be 5-0, I believe, and then everyone that is 4-1 is gonna go into one giant play-in race to get that last spot.
It's going to be a bloodbath.
I believe the play-in. I know I see a couple admins in chat. I believe that is a week from today, actually.
Well, there has to be the next race the next week. Well, next week from now. And then the other one's probably going to be very shortly after. I'm not exactly sure about the dates for the rest of the tournament.
I believe it's 2 weeks from today, sorry.
Yeah. We're probably going to have more information soon on that, but don't worry, everything is going to be covered on Speed Gaming and ALTTP Randomizer channels. Here for the Aghanim 2 fight, not having a really nice pattern from the get-go.
Aghanim 2 is not being kind.
Oh, definitely not. Not even moving. And here we get, I think it's a double? Could have been counted as a triple. I'm not exactly sure if one of them hit or not. Okay, this is much kinder. Okay,
that's a double that time.
We're at least at 4 hits. So 2 more should do it. Okay, yeah. It was definitely not a triple earlier, so just 1 more hit and that's the fight. And then we're moving on to Ganon. With full HP, I believe, in a red potion in our inventory, and like fighter sword and silver arrows, like what more could you ask for?
Yeah, that Aga 2 was not friendly. That was some weird patterns.
Meanwhile, JP entering GT, also not forgetting, is a small key. So everything should be fine for him. Liminality being ahead of him. But there's still room for Liminality to make mistakes and actually lose ground here.
Liminality just saying nope to all the chests, just gonna go flat to the front, just like Gesellschaft did on her path up.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is what you need to do.
Yeah, there's nothing you can possibly need here other than putter, and the difference between tempered and putter is not worth the time it takes to open chests.
If you can one cycle both Ganon fights, then like you get absolutely nothing from getting the sword upgrade. So yeah, you basically like your tournament life is in danger right now. You just don't mess around, don't play around, don't be cute with the last chest that some people like to do funny things with. But yeah, you just play seriously and you hope for the best. At that point, both players need to not make mistakes, and they need to not like treat the rest of the tournament as a joke. And here we have it finally, our first contestant finishing the Ganon fight really cleanly, just above the 2-hour mark on our timer. But it appears that in game also, she's finishing in first place with a time of 2 hours and 26 seconds. So almost a sub 2-hour seed from Gesellschaft. Really well played. We're going to see if we can get her for an interview.
Yeah, so let's get some G's in chat, please. And, Liminality is onto Agnum 2 himself. Let's see if he has the same bit of a trolliness that Giselle had.
So far, not being that much lucky, actually getting one hit in though. Someone needs 4 more hits to finish boss.
Very nice triple.
Indeed. So 1 more hit and that should be it. And there we go, a much cleaner fight. Really good execution right there. And now it's down to the Ganon fight for him. So he will need to fall to Ganon and have some problems for JP to come back into this race. But anything can still happen still. Loony about to claim his last crystal to be able to enter GT. Yeah, I'd say JP is maybe 2 Ganon falls behind. Depends on when the fall happens. But yeah, like, I don't wish falls upon any players. Like, not even to keep tournaments close.
Yeah, it's just a very disheartening feeling to go this deep into the seed and just slip off that little edge.
Mm-hmm.
We have J. Bradley in chat calling out Gesellschaft for next week.
And here she is. She will move in here shortly, and oh.
And we do have Giselle in chat with us. GG, my friend, well played.
GG.
So, talk us through the seed. It was a little bit on the linear side.
I'm so mad. Like, there's so many things I could say. This would have been a great seed if it wasn't Keysanity. So I'm gonna say the way I played it is not how you play Keysanity at all, in my opinion.
Can you give a little more insight in that? I know there's some locations that you've been doing little interesting things, like your early decision to actually skip the racing game and checking the library. I found that quite interesting. Can you walk me through your thought logic behind that?
So the way I go into these races is I anticipate that I'm a strong execution player normally. So there's a couple of strategies that I have, and I try and play to my opponent. So when it came to that, I kind of like I made a lot of mistakes to the seed, but that was definitely intentional. It was the fact that the walk going from town back to south, I figured would be too long, and I feel that Keysanity, it's really important to mix 2 types of overall tours that you do around the overworld. I kind of refer to it like a light world tour and a dark world tour. And so a lot of it hinges around the mirror. So my thinking was, well, you know, I could spend the time to go there and there's likely an important item, but there's still so many early checks and I've lost a lot of time already from the very beginning. So I'll route it in under the assumption that I might find something like a shovel, or I need to go back to town anyway, or, you know, even boots for the library key, or not library. I didn't know about the library key, but at the time it's kind of like, there's so many other low locations I can go to that I can route it in quite simply later. So I wasn't too worried about going there immediately.
Absolutely.
I accidentally forgot that I had Quake. I was thinking about Quake and Turok for a long time. So the whole thing with Hera, going into Hera, was because I didn't think I had Quake. So I'm like going to Death Mountain for one item, going to Death Mountain for one item, but and then like Compass, like I did not. I was kind of expecting flippers, and yeah, and fake flippering into Ice Palace made no sense to me. So that's kind of why I didn't bother doing it. And kind of looking at the channel, I guess no one else did either.
Yeah, absolutely no one did. And absolutely no one entered Ice Palace at all. Everyone, after got in the flippers, actually made the play to go straight to Swamp, and there they found the go mode. And during the interview, actually, we had Liminality actually winning his race personally with the official SRL time of 2 hours, 3 minutes, and 25 seconds. So he's here joining us. Liminality, how do you feel about your race?
Thanks. Aside from things like dying in Paradox Cave and my short break I had to take in Hera, not too bad.
The Hera break was definitely fine. 3 of you ended up doing it. And really, the deaths happen. Like, we had Giselle herself actually getting unfortunate deaths to the Chain Chums herself. So, mistakes did happen, but really, good job on your performance. And JP also finishing his fight really on the last leg. So we're going to have him for an interview at the same time. And it's going to be quite interesting to ask all 3 of you guys questions at the same time, because there's some bottlenecks that this seed definitely had, especially treating to actually entering Misery Mire. All 4 players were in Misery Mire at the exact same time at some point, and really, it was really interesting how the entire race funneled everyone there. So JP finally finishing his race himself with an official SRL time at 2 hours, 6 minutes, and 41 seconds. We will also try to get him in for an interview. But in the meantime, are there, I want to ask you, Liminality, is there a personal point in the seed that you felt like you really had, that you felt you made the correct play at some point?
No, actually, I felt like I was behind all the way up to Turtle Rock. Going into Turtle Rock, I was thinking, okay, best case scenario, we're tied. More than likely, I felt I was probably behind everyone, just chasing after everyone.
It's really funny because, like, for most of the seed, you felt the most ahead out of anyone else, except at the very end, Turok, you and Giselle were pretty much to or like 1 minute behind or ahead of the other. You were certainly doing fine, but yeah, like, the routing necessary for the seed was quite odd, because you had to do the pot dip in order to get the big key for Skullwoods, in order to open that chest to get the Eater to be able to enter Misery Mire, and then find your mirror to then actually go to Graveyard Cave to get your boots. And then the boots got you Quake and Desert to be able to go to Rock. That was, this entire chain of events was required, and you could do nothing else.
Yeah, what's really funny is that at the time the Skullwoods came into play, I only had 2 options, and I thought of Skullwoods, and I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna go check the tablet. Tablet, I think, had nothing. So I'm like, okay, it's Skullwoods, so I went Skullwoods, and from that point things went pretty smooth, but, or well, I shouldn't say smooth, but oh my goodness, that was such a weird, like, seed for Keysanity, not like, it didn't feel like a Keysanity seed to me.
Yeah, it was quite interesting, and I believe that you were the 3rd person to enter Misery Mire. But the big decider of this race, I believe, like at least one of them, was how quick people took to actually find the boots or not. Because after that, it felt that the rest of the seed was pretty much on cruise control.
Yeah, I felt really weird and behind for most of the seed, but when I got the boots, I kind of thought, you know, it actually might have, like, the timing in which the boots showed up, I figured things might not have been so bad after all, but I was all over this race, and like, from the beginning, the strategy that I chose was not the strategy that was meant for the seed. Like, about 20-25 minutes in, I'm like, okay, the way the seed's playing is not the way I wanted to go in playing it, so I felt, I don't know, it just got really, it was really strange for me to play. I haven't played a seed quite like this.
It seemed like a very kind of like a funnel seed of. Everything was kind of forcing you to Skullwoods at the middle half there. And then after Skullwoods, everything was kind of forcing you towards Swamp. It was kind of the seed that everything was kind of locked behind one specific dungeon at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because it was fairly straightforward what the seed wanted you to do. It was more so just kind of trying to do it with the locations to find the items. Like, that's why I never bothered going to Ice Palace, because by the time, like, if Ice Palace had any worth, it wouldn't matter because you still need the flippers. So it was somewhat redundant. A lot of it really hinged on the flippers. And then, of course, getting to Torok for the boots. But my big blunder was, as soon as I got the boots, I wasn't really thinking of that I should go to Torok right away, because I'm like, I got Quake and then I forgot I had Quake, basically. So that really kind of messed me up. And there's a bunch of little things, but I mean, it was still good, but I was, oh man, my heart just...
Yeah, all four of you guys checked that Hera basement, so I didn't really lose you any time at all.
Yeah, like certain mistakes did happen, but like none of them were really major. And it also appears that JP will not actually join us for an interview, but really, he had a really close race with Liminality, so please give him a shout of applause in chat. Like, 3-minute difference in Keysanity is no joke, so really well played to BrewersFanJP, and we hope to see you next week for the next race anyway. So, yeah, it was quite an interesting seed. Like, you had the beginning that was really, okay, a lot of things open, you can go in so many directions, go South Shore, do escape, everything. And then you were force funneled into entering Misery Mire and finding that mirror. And after that, there's this entire chain of islands that I mentioned earlier, including the mirror and the boots, that was required in order to finish the seed. So it was really interesting, and I'm wondering if you personally experienced other seeds that felt like that. Like, it's really open, and then you basically only have one logical play except for fringe locations.
That, unfortunately, actually happened a fair bit. Especially once you get about, not near the end, but I'd say about like 60% of the way through a seed. Unfortunately, that feels like what a lot of the tournament matches have been.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and right there
for
we
1
have
second,
the
Cheryl.
final...
Yeah, there you go.
Yes,
What I was gonna say.
We have the final arrow finally finishing off the Fort Gannon fight, and Loonycloud87 finishing his own race with an official SRL time of 2 hours 20 minutes 2 hours 12 minutes and 33 seconds. I apologize. We'll also try to get him in for an interview, but until then, sorry to have interrupted you.
Oh no, I was going to say the exact same thing you were, because I saw he was finishing up. But it's impressive to see that all four of these fantastic runners, and I please give all four of them a follow, finished within 12 minutes of each other. This was not the friendliest of seeds.
No, absolutely, but those were definitely also, like, it was a funnel seed with like all 4 players being 2-1 players, and like the difference of time really shows the quality of the players, I believe.
Yeah, my feelings are, this would have been a great seed if it wasn't Keysanity. It just didn't, to me, it just doesn't feel like a Keysanity seed. So the way it was played was just a little bit weird, but no, it was definitely good. Very, very thankful to play, and you know, it was fun. Just
all right,
no,
so
really
you two are
interesting.
now 3-1, so you guys go into next week to qualify for that massive play-in race. Giselle, I'll start with you. Thoughts on next week and going into the playoff race?
I'm sorry, did you say something? I got distracted real briefly.
I said you are now 3-1. Next week you have one more match to qualify for that play-in race in 2 weeks from now. Thoughts on going into the 3-1/4-1 bracket and then the playoff race?
Just no pressure. I'm gonna have, just have fun. I think I'll play a little bit differently. Well, I mean, I'll depend on my opponent too, but I think I'm gonna play differently for the next one. Just in the event that even the next seed is kind of a mix of this one and something else. it's kind of given me some different ideas. And then under the assumption that I win next week, going into the tiebreaker, my strategy is basically just gamble a lot. I'm gonna kind of breadcrumb it a little bit more and just take risks because what is it, like 30 players and only one winner? It's like you can't play it safe, you can't play it too thorough. You do have to cut corners because you do need the time. So that's pretty much my strategy going in, should I make it there.
All right, and then you will tell us you the same question, Liminality. Thoughts on the 3-1 and thoughts on the going into the massive planers?
Admittedly, I was expecting to be 1-3 or 0-4 at this point. As for the big race, if I manage to qualify for it, I'm basically going to just do what I've been doing. I don't expect that I'll be able to win it based off of some of the people I know who are going to be in it, but regardless, I'll play it. I'll see how I do compared to everyone. That's really just been my goal for this. See how I do compared to people and just enjoy myself.
Yeah, absolutely. And like this entire tournament, just because of the structure of 208 entrants and only the best 8 players can move on, basically already inclined itself to be a tournament just for fun, that people just play your matches and hope for the best, and even if you don't win, you hope to have some fun. So if you just end up doing good and you try to push it to the next round, then like you just go for it, right?
Now, Dory, I do want to bring up one point that we were seeing in chat. We had a call out from one Willard J. Bradley who says he wants you in the 3-1. Thoughts on Willard?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it. That'd be a fun matchup. I feel more prepared to face him this time than I did the first time. I think the first time it's kind of a mix of me getting a little bit lucky and just kind of the few dumbs between us. But yeah, I think that'd be a lot of fun. Bring it!
Okay, Willard, you gotta play with the challenge gods and make that match for next week, because that's one that we want to see. I know you're still lurking in chat.
Alright, we're still trying to get Loonycloud in for an interview. He should be here shortly. And then we'll have our final words on the seed. But yeah, are there really big glaring mistakes accepting some deaths here and there that you felt, oh, I should not have done that, I should have done something else instead at some point? Like routing wise.
For me, when I first went into Hera, my original plan was to go into Hera, see what's at Spectacle Rock, and then since I had the cane, 2 potion, or at least 1 potion, and hammer, and Moon Pearl, I figured, okay, I'll see what's at Spectacle Rock, so I have that knowledge, and then go into Spike Cave. And then after I picked up the second chest, I did save and quit, and right as I hit, I realized that I screwed everything up, and then ended up wasting time going back to just Spectacle Rock and Spike Cave later, which proved to be nothing in the end.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And also, I also remember someone having an interesting dip into Eastern Palace without the big key.
I know I did that at least once.
Yeah, that was fun. Again, that was kind of a little bit all over, a little unorthodox gameplay for me, but there's worse to complain about.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so we do have Loonycloud in chat with us now. GG Loony, well played, my friend.
GG.
Hello, GG.
So Loony, thoughts on the seed? Talk us through your play here.
When I went into this race, I knew I was the weaker player, so I needed to find the boots quicker to have a chance at all.
Yeah, and it turns out you actually got quite unlucky on that, sadly. You were the last player to actually find the boots, but the interesting thing about the seed is that the early game was quite funneled until the point that all 4 of you were in Misermire at the exact same time. And after that, there was a chain of items that you had to find in order to finish the seed that was basically forced. So the time that you took to find the boots actually is the big element that set you back on your opponent. So rando happens, basically.
Yes, if that was everything, then I'm pretty happy with my time.
Yeah,
that was pretty much the point A that let Gesellschaft pull away from me. Was she got boots a bit earlier, but other than that, your play was very, very smooth, and it was very nice to watch.
Yeah, all 4 players had amazing performances, and I heavily recommend all of our viewers to follow these players and support them on their next endeavors. Is there a particular point, Looney, that you felt especially like ahead or behind, like a big element of the race that you felt was really marking for you?
I thought many things that you had to do to get key items were pretty much forced, so there weren't many options to get into this.
Yeah, absolutely. For a lot of locations like Ice Palace that none of the players touch at all. And like everything was just easy access in the end. Like all the players were missing 3 items for go mode, and then everyone made the play to go to Turrock, get that for them flippers, and then after they got the flippers, everyone made the same play to just, well, let's go straight to Swamp, and then they found their go mode. So it was quite an interesting linear seed though, but like really, like the fact that it was about an hour and 10 minutes where people were in Misery Mire and everyone was there at the same time. So it's a testament that like things can happen, and the second half of a seed, just rando can kick in and you just end up being unlucky with your location. Because the boots were in a quite unattractive location as well, right?
Yeah, if we had the mirror earlier, it wouldn't have been nearly as bad, because from Skullwoods you can route that easily, but getting the mirror so late definitely does make that location a pain to get to.
At the same time, you can say if you get the breadcrumbs, just check it, but it's always hard to make the choice. Route efficiently or do the breadcrumb route and maybe be lucky.
Absolutely.
And just to look at a screen for 1 second, Liminality just did the right side desert. It was just a compass and a big 20.
That's a shame. But with the location of the small key, if you actually made a play to smoke all that small key to open that side, that would have been a disaster. You would have gotten the desert crystal much later in the seed. But yeah, any final words from our contestant according to the seed? I'm going to begin with you, Giselle. Do you have any final words?
I just want to say GG to my opponent, GG to everyone that participated. It was a lot of fun. I'm very thankful for the opportunity to even play in the first place. Thank you to the commentators. Sure, you both did a wonderful job. Thank you to the trackers. Thank you, Dragon Strike. I appreciate you. And thank you to again to the trackers, the streamer, everyone. Like so many people. I think I'm just really appreciative. Love you all, and thank you.
All good. And Liminality, do you have final words as well?
Pretty much the same thing of thanks for excuse me. Thank you, trackers, for tracking. Thank you for the race also. I'm sorry, I cannot pronounce names correctly, but thank you both of you for the race, and JP, if he's still watching, thank you as well for the race. And yeah, I look forward to possibly racing one of you guys again next round.
Sure, sounds great. And Loonycloud, do you have any final words as well?
Basically the same. GG, thank you for the race. Thank you to everyone involved in restreaming and organizing this tournament. It is a lot of fun, and have fun with the upcoming matches.
Yeah, sounds good. And now it's my turn to finally do the thanking words. So first of all, I'd like to thank my co-caster Darkfalls1983 for the wonderful time that we had tonight. I'd also like to thank our wonderful trackers, Dragonstrike1988 and Miss Metroid, that really came in handy with the tracking really on point, the seed. Without really good trackers, it's really difficult to do proper commentary. So all the trackers that do this really job that looks thankless, but it's so important. So like, please give some love to our trackers and give them follows and everything else. It's really important. I'd like to thank our restreamer, Sinak. Without him, like this match would not have been featured at all. So please give him a little bit of love. Without him, you would have seen that match at all. So thank you, Sinak. And really, if it's your first time watching rando races and you want to like give it a try, just have some fun, then just join us on the ALTTP Randomizer Discord. There's a lot of really good resources for new players, so give it a try. Don't be shy. You don't have to race or be as good as these players to have a really fun time. And once again, I'd like to give a really good GG, well played to all 4 of our runners that did a wonderful job tonight to give us a really hype, tight race. Like 12-minute finish between all of them is really amazing. So Dark Falls, I think this cover is really up for tonight. Do you have any final words yourself?
Just echo what you said. GG to everyone. Everyone did put on a heck of a race. Thank you to the trackers. Thank you to the restreamer. Thank you to everyone in chat for watching and sticking with us tonight, making chat a lot of fun to watch. With that, I was Darkfalls1983. With me was Liminality today. Everyone have a fantastic evening. We will see you tomorrow for another full docket of races. Have a great night, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow.
Good night.